Hello and a very warm welcome to Silloth. Silloth is a small town on the northern coast of Cumbria on the Solway estuary, where the Solway estuary meets the Irish Sea, and it's a delightful, charming Victorian town, seaside resort that is very popular for locals living here in North Cumbria, but also visitors from other parts of the country as well. So join me as we explore this charming town on a rather cold mid-winter's day in December. This is the rather charming Christ Church here in Silloth. Really beautiful building inside. So if you come here to Silloth on a summer's day, you'll find the place full of visitors, but not many today. It is a Friday. Unfortunately, Mrs. Wilson's coffee house and eatery looks like it's closed until further notice. But there is a for sale sign on the building, so hopefully someone, if it's for sale, will buy that and continue to run it. So this is Silloth Nursing and Residential Care Home, and the reason I've come up here is because my mum used to work here when I was a little child. My mum worked here for a number of years, and I do actually remember as a child coming to various different events and activities here in this nursing home. As I say, we're probably talking 42 years ago, 43 years ago, a long time ago. And according to this sign, the nursing home was established in 1862, so it's been here a long time. So as a child, I used to live in a village not that far away from Silloth, a place called Dereham, just down the coast. And as a family, we used to come to Silloth fairly frequently when we lived in Dereham. My mum, as I said, worked in the nursing home, so we had that link, but we'd often come here and walk along the front. So I have lots of fond memories of Silloth, going right back to my early childhood. And since we moved back to Carlisle just over 9 years ago now, it's been wonderful to reacquaint ourselves with this charming little town and this lovely stretch of Cumbrian coastline, which many visitors are unaware of, and yet it's a really delightful area. There are some fantastic coastal walks that you can do from Silloth. This is heading down to West Beach, and just across from me is Dumfries and Galloway, and the hill that you can see in the distance is Criffel. Some fantastic walks up Criffel, amazing views looking back over to Cumbria and the Lake District. But this is one of the reasons why I love coming to Silloth. Miles and miles of beach to walk along. It's particularly special in the summer, especially sort of June time, when we have really long days, and just to come to this beach and watch the sunset is one of my favourite activities to do. So as you can see, beautiful views over to Scotland. We're very close to Scotland. Not sure how many miles to the other side, but probably 10 miles at the most. But if we were to drive to that other side of the coast, it would take us probably well over an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes just to get a few miles across the estuary. So I just had a quick look online, and actually I was very accurate. It's about 10 to 12 miles to Criffel as the crow flies from Silloth, but if I was to drive there it would take about an hour and 40 minutes, so have to go to Carlisle, cross the border right round to Dumfries and then along the coast. So so near yet so far. So this stretch of the Cumbrian coastline isn't particularly well known. Many visitors don't get here, but it's a delightful area. I love it. I think it's really beautiful. Got these wonderful views over to southern Scotland, some lovely beaches to walk along, open landscape. It's just really, really lovely. And yet, as I say, most visitors are completely unaware of this area. So effectively, it's just left to locals, to those that have the privilege of living in this wonderful part of Cumbria. So at the moment, I think we've just passed high tide, but actually this tide, when it goes out a long way. It goes out over a mile. So when the tide is out, you can walk a long way out here into the estuary. It's a lovely thing to do, especially on a summer's evening. So Silloth has a working port still in use. A small ship comes here on a fairly regular basis, but this port is used for handling things like grains, fertilizers, timber and molasses. So it is still an active port. In fact, there was an incident not that long ago where the ship entering the port actually got grounded, and was grounded for quite a while. One thing I've never seen, or one thing I want to try and catch one day, is to watch the ship come into port. That'd be a fun thing to film. So the large buildings you can see over there are the Carr's flour mill, and that's an operating mill and supplies flour to a number of food manufacturers such as United Biscuits and Warburton's. So as you can see, no ships in port today. You can also probably tell it's quite a small port, so they can only take ships up to 4,500 tons in weight. So fairly small coastal ships that use this port. The reason Silloth exists today is because of this port. Until the 1850s, Silloth was just a tiny little hamlet, but Port Carlisle, the main port for the city of Carlisle, further up the coast, started to silt up. So they looked for a new location in which to build a port to supply the city of Carlisle, and they chose this location. So in the 1850s, they constructed the Carlisle to Silloth Railway and constructed this port, and the town grew and developed around it, and it became a coastal resort, a visitor destination in its own right, particularly for people living in Carlisle. So the town really owes its success and its origins to this port. So Port Carlisle, which, as I've just said, is further up the coast from Silloth, is an interesting place in its own right. It's a very tiny little hamlet, but it was the port for the city of Carlisle, and it was linked to Carlisle initially by a canal, and that was eventually replaced by a railway line. But there was an ambitious scheme at one point to turn Port Carlisle into a huge port to rival Liverpool. It never happened, unsurprisingly, but there were these grand plans to make it a port to rival Liverpool itself. And if you're interested in that, I did do a little bit of a video about that when I did the first of my Hadrian Wall path walks, where I started from Port Carlisle and talk a little bit about the history of the place. So I'll put a link into this video if you're interested in finding out more about Port Carlisle. It was the building of the port here in Silloth that brought the railway line to the town. But sadly, the railway line closed on the 7th of September 1964, victim of Dr. Beeching's cuts. You can see where the railway lines used to run under the road, heading towards Carlisle, and the trains would come underneath that bridge and they would terminate here in what is now Silloth's Rugby Union Football Club. And just in the distance you might be able to make out the buildings of the port. So the trains would terminate right in the heart of the town, but very sadly that railway line no longer exists, and there's no real sign of the old railway apart from the bridge and the street in front of me, which is called Station Mews. Here we have Silloth Lifeboat Station. So here we have some information about the lifeboat kept here. So it's an Atlantic 85 inshore lifeboat. So one of the lovely things about Silloth is this promenade that goes for, I don't know, a mile and a half maybe. Lovely place to walk along. I've got photos of me as a little child jumping off these steps of the promenade. Now, one thing I would like some help with is that as a child I have vivid memories of there being a very small railway that used to run along the promenade. It was one of those sort of narrow gauge sit-on railways, probably 3-inch gauge, something like that. And I distinctly remember that as a child, and I have a feeling it was somewhere around here, close to the lifeboat station. Now, I have looked online for photos and I've not found any photos, but I'm sure it was here. So if anyone remembers that little railway line, I think just sort of ran up the prom a little bit and back again. If anyone remembers that, please do post a comment below, and if you've got any photos of it, I'd love to see those photos. As I say, I'm pretty convinced it was here. I do remember it, but I've not found any information about it anywhere else. You've got these rather lovely shelters, a couple of these shelters I think, along the prom. Now, I don't know if it's open or if it's locked, but a nice place to sit when the weather's not very nice. Let's see if it's open. No, unfortunately not. Oh, there we go. Closed during the winter months. So that's now, unfortunately. But a lovely little spot, and you might not be able to see very clearly, but along the top of the wall they do have pictures, photos of Silloth from days gone by. Now I wonder if I can actually see any photos of that little railway that I remember. No, not that I can see. But look at the view. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, there are days where you can't see Scotland at all, when it's misty and grey. But on a day like today, it's lovely. And just below me, there is a small amusement arcade. Nothing too big here in Silloth. And down here, they have a splash paddling pool. It's sealed off, as you can see at the moment. But I think that operates in the summer. A nice place for kids to mess around in. Little kids, of course. Now I did say that there were two of those pagodas, well I thought there were two. I was wrong. I think it's just that one. So I'm pretty convinced that little railway line used to run along here, and I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me, but I can almost imagine, I can see a line where it might have followed, but I might just be imagining that. So I think they have a weekly park run along this promenade every Saturday morning, so if that's your thing, come along, get involved in that. Nice place to do a park run. So along the promenade you do have some information boards, and this one reminds us that we are still part of the Hadrian's Wall defences here. So Hadrian's Wall, there's Drumbrough, bonus on Solway, but the defences of the Hadrian's Wall continued all the way down the coast, in fact all the way down to Ravenglass. And there are signs of defensive structures, mileposts, mileforts even, going down the coast, particularly between Silloth and Allenby and Maryport. So although the Hadrian's Wall itself did not come here, the defence structure carried on all the way down the coast. In fact, my plan is at some point to make a video about Maryport, a town I used to live in. And there's a Roman museum there which is well worth visiting. It's got lots of old altars that were found in the Roman fort there. Quite a lot of those altars were fairly phallic in nature. But anyway, and interesting map of the Roman Empire, and you can see that blue line, Hadrian's Wall. So we're almost right on the edge of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century. If you do visit Silloth, then one thing I do recommend doing is taking the coast road from Silloth south to Maryport. It's a beautiful little road. It hugs the coastline, gives you access to some lovely stretches of beach, but also there are one or two Roman sites that you can visit between here and Maryport, one or two Roman mile forts. So they would have had forts every mile along the border, so you can go and visit that, and it's just a beautiful little drive. And the village of Allenby is delightful as well. Again, lots of childhood memories of visiting Allenby, so lovely place. This house has always fascinated me here in Silloth, in its location, and again, lovely views. But it was recently advertised for sale. I don't know if it's been sold, but I had a look online to see what it's like inside. It's a really delightful building inside, so whoever buys that will have a nice place to live. So just along the promenade we have this statue entitled "Look at the View." But what you possibly don't realise is just the size of it. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm just going to go and sit on that bench next to that statue. Maybe you sort of appreciate the size of it now. Let me jump up. I can just about get up there without having to jump up. But yeah, it's quite a big statue, and enjoying the view. Come on. Hey, well done. Hey. Oi, stop it.